Hi, I'm Sara Wolkenfeld.
And I am David Wolkenfeld, and we are recording from our apartment in Chicago. Our apartment was converted from a flower shop, and so even though we are indoors, we are very much in a space that is imbued with the spirit of growth and planting, and the spirit of Shemitah, imbues our home. So that's where we're recording to you today from.
And that's why it's such a great place to talk to you about the third Perek of Mishnah Shevi'it, which is very much a part of the larger story of what you can and can't do during the Shemitah year. But in particular, this chapter discusses two maybe unexpected topics. It discusses garbage, or in particular fertilizer, and when and where you can and can't move it around. And also it discusses the removal of stones, which is the kind of very detailed agricultural work that I think us non-farmers don't really think about. I think about Shemitah more as harvesting crops and growing crops or not doing those things. But this is really two sides of the same coin. You can't improve your land by putting fertilizer into it, and you can't improve the land itself by taking rocks out of it.
Right. One person's manure is someone else's fertilizer, right? Taking out the garbage is actually improving land, at least in maybe not so much the garbage we produce, but in those who had animals and cared for animals, the garbage that was produced, the manure was produced, was in fact fertilizer, is in fact fertilizer.
And if you compost.
And if you compost as well, right. So with all issues that are relevant for Shemitah. And so this Perek is about regulating taking out the garbage and gathering rocks from the field. Rocks it's not an agricultural product per se, or it isn't at all, but removing rocks from the land automatically makes that land better for planting subsequently.
And one of the things we were struck by in this Perek were the parallels between Shemitah as a year of rest and Shabbat as a day of rest, which is a parallel that's established already in the way the Torah presents the Shemitah year. It's really 6 years you shall work, and in the 7th year you shall rest, which is a familiar paradigm. And we noticed a few issues that really, really highlight these parallels.
Yeah, the first was the concern that we know as in our common parlance as married ayin, things that are not necessarily problematic or wouldn't be problematic because you're doing them with a totally benign intention. They're not intrinsically problematic, but they look as though you're violating some essential halachic rule, and that seems to be an animating concern of this Perek, that taking out the garbage looks as though you're fertilizing one's field, and there are numerous restrictions and detailed restrictions on how one removes the manure and how one's animals can be outside in the field in ways that don't raise these concerns.
Yep, and so that's very much a parallel, and I think the other piece that comes up is that last Mishnah actually raises the idea that not only can you not improve your own land, which is, again, I think a familiar idea once you get used to the world of Shemitah, so you're not making money off your land, you're not making money off your produce, you can't sell your own things. The last Mishnah actually raises the idea that you can't even improve the Reshut HaRabim. You can't do this kind of stonework in a way, or moving dirt around in a way that would improve the Reshut HaRabim, the public domain. And so it really is this idea of a global Shabbat as a rest for the land itself, and not just Shabbat as being about my personal economic benefit or lack thereof. And it's this really beautiful idea of it's a Shabbat for the whole world. It's a Shabbat for the entire world's worth of land, and so we have to be sensitive to that in all the activities that we do.
Yeah, I find that idea really just compelling because it creates a parallel between my own ownership over my own private property, which is limited during the Shemitah year. I can't use and make use of my private property. It's a little bit less private, a little bit less property. And at the same time, I have added restrictions on the public domain. And so I have more responsibilities in how I treat the public domain. So the public domain is a little bit more in my consciousness because I have added restrictions, and my private property is a little bit less in my hands, or a lot less in my hands during the Shemitah year. And that way, there's a really nice parallel between those two types of private and public land.
So we wish you a great Shemitah year, and thanks for learning with us.